This is grade 6, module 2, lesson 2. And in this lesson, we're going to be interpreting division of a whole number by a fraction, and we're going to use visual models. Okay, so we're going to skip over right to page S7 in our books, and it looks like this. Okay, and we won't be traveling to each model. We're just going to answer these questions together. So when I look at the first question here, it says, how many 1/2 miles are in 12 miles? Okay, so we're asking ourselves, in 12 miles, how many half miles can I make? And the first part here says we're going to make a corresponding division expression. Okay, so we have to take our 12 miles and divide it by 1/2 miles. Okay, and then in our next block right here, it says we're going to do a corresponding multiplication expression. Now remember what I told you about division of fractions. We multiply the reciprocal. Let me write that down. And what the reciprocal is when our numerator becomes the denominator and our denominator becomes the numerator. So when we have 12 divided by 1/2, our corresponding multiplication expression will be 12 times 2 over 1. Okay? And 12 times 2 over 1 is the same as 12 times 2. And then in our last box, it says, write an equation showing the equivalence of the two expressions. So all we have to do is take our 12 divided by 1/2 equal to 12 times 2 and write it here in this box. Okay, and then we're done with the first one. So let's look at number 4. I'll do number 4 with you here. Okay, and it says how many 1/8 pizzas are in 4 pizzas. So I have to take 4 pizzas and I have to divide it by 1/8. Okay, that's simple enough. And then in our next box right here, we have to do the multiplication expression. So remember, multiply the reciprocal. So I have 4 divided by 1/8, which means it's going to be 4 times 8 over 1. And instead of writing 8 over 1, this time I'm just going to write the whole number 8. Okay, and then in the last box here, we just have to take our 4 divided by 1/8 and make it equal to 4 times 8. Okay, so on your papers, I want you guys to try number 2, 3, and 5 on your own. Next, we're going to be moving on to example number 2. And example 2 says Molly has 9 cups of flour. I'm going to circle 9. If this is 3/4 of the number she needs to make bread, how many cups does she need? So I'm just underlining my question, circling the numbers that are relevant to this problem. And A says, construct the tape diagram by reading it backwards. Draw a tape diagram and label the unknown. So when I'm reading this problem, I'm going to start working it backwards. So I'm asking myself, 9 is 3/4 group of what size? So when I draw my tape diagram out, okay, here's my whole tape diagram. I'm looking at 3/4 of that, so let me make that 3/4. Okay. Okay, so I shaded in 3/4. 3 out of the 4 pieces are shaded in. So C says label the shaded region to show that 9 is equal to 3/4 of the total. So all I have to do is I'm going to do my trace like that, and then we're going to label that as 9. So when we look at this tape diagram, we notice that this piece and this piece and this piece together make 9. Okay, so we're looking for our quotient, and we knew that 9 is 3/4 of group of what size. So we're looking for how many cups of bread does she need. Right now she has 3/4 of the whole thing. Well, how much is the whole thing? Hopefully by looking at this, you could have figured out that each one of these units was 3. So that means that the total is going to be equal to 12. Now the way that we've been solving this is we had a whole group of 9, and we're going to divide that by 3/4. And what is that going to be equal to? Well, don't forget to multiply the reciprocal. So I wrote mine as 9 over 1 times 4 over 3. And you're going to look for common factors in your numerator and your denominator. So our numerators are 9 and 4. Our denominators are 1 and 3. So you should see that the common factor is going to be here. The common factor is 3. 3 goes into 3 one time, and 3 goes into 3 three times. So let me do that. And when I do that and I multiply my numerators and denominators, I get 12 over 1, which is equal to the whole number, 12. So we know in this problem that 9 is 3/4 of something. So you can also think of that as 9 is equal to 3/4 times some number. Okay. And when you do that, you can go back to the division and do 9 divided by 3/4. Okay. And that brings you right to here. Okay, so let's look at some problems. And I'm going to do the odd ones, and I want you guys to do the even ones on your own. So I'm going to do number 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so number 1 reads, a construction company is setting up signs on 2 miles of road. If the company places a sign every 1/4 mile, how many signs will it use? Okay, so our target sentence reads, it will use blank signs. Okay, so I have 2 miles of road and the company places a sign every 1/4 of a mile. So I'm asking myself, how many 1/4 are there in 2? Well, if I have 2 and I divide it by 1/4, I multiply the reciprocal, which means it's 2 times 4, and my correct answer will be 8. So it will use 8 signs. So number 3 says Miranda buys 6 pounds of nuts. If she puts 3/4 pounds in each bag, how many bags can she make? So again, I'm starting out with 6 pounds and I'm dividing by 3/4, but let me do my target sentence. And I just put it over here over the side, and it says she can make blank bags. Okay, so going back to our problem, I have 6, and I'm going to be dividing that by 3/4, which is equal to 6, multiply the reciprocal, 4 over 3. Now, I'm going to put my 6 over 1, okay, and let me rewrite that, because it's a little bit easier to see my common factors in my numerator and my denominators if I have both factors set up as fractions. So if I'm looking here, I see my 6 and the 3, and I know that they have a common factor, and that common factor would be 3. So how many times does 3 go into 3? And how many times does 3 go into 6? Okay, and 3 goes into 6 2 times, and 2 times 4 will be 8. And then 1 times 1 is 1. And 8 over 1 is equal to 8. So she can make 8 bags. Okay, let me do number 5. And 5 reads, Regina is chopping up wood. She has chopped 10 logs so far. If the 10 logs represent 5/8 of all the logs that need to be chopped, how many logs need to be chopped in all? Okay, so this one's a little bit different. This is saying 10 logs is equal to 5/8 of some number. So 5/8 times some number. Okay, and I rewrite that as a division problem of 10 divided by 5/8, and we multiply the reciprocal. Okay, let me rewrite that so both of them are fractions. Check for common factors. And in my numerators, I have a 10 and I have an 8. My denominators, I have a 5 and a 1. So I see my 5 and a 10, and I know they have a common factor. So 5 goes into 5 one time, and 5 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 8 is 16 over 1. So that gives me a total of 16. I did not write my target sentence, and I'm going to do it now. And that reads, 16 logs need to be chopped in all. Okay, so I want you guys to do the even numbers. So that would be 2, let me go back a page, and 4. So those are the 2 that you're going to do on your own and submit to me. Your homework for tonight is going to be this problem set, and I want you to do all of the even numbers. So I want you to do 2, 4, and 6.